Great. And so if you do not wish to be recorded, you can always turn off your camera or mute yourself. And yeah, so thank you all for coming. This is a ClimateLink meetup where we like to host technological solutions to various aspects of climate change and the clean energy transition. So tonight, I have a super awesome talk. It's a super awesome project, and Steve has promised me, no, he hasn't promised me at all, but I'm going to assume it's going to be a super awesome talk because I'm very excited about this app. It's been a couple years in the making, and essentially what it does is it helps speed up the permitting process to put solar on roofs and also on the ground utility scale, or just for rooftop?
Right now, just for residential.
Okay, so residential rooftop, and it makes it easier. I'm doing some permitting type things at our house, as you can see. So I would love for all of that to be made easier. I was at the cover slide on the back side, so now we're at the front side. ClimateLink is a network, it's a meetup, it's a way of life. And our goal is really to, through connections and community, help companies, entrepreneurs, researchers, from inspiration to IPO, from Eureka to exit, from cradle to the cradle. How do we accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels and towards a regenerative economy? And so through these events, we've helped companies fundraise, hire people, build partnerships with corporations. We've even had one marriage come out of it so far, hoping for another one so that we can add to it, because I just have the one to talk about every time. And it is also sponsored by my startup, Atmos Financial, which is a banking startup. We just launched checking accounts yesterday. So we've got checking and savings accounts, and 100% of the deposits go to finance climate positive assets. And later this year, we'll actually be, excuse me, we'll actually be starting our lending program. So it'll be residential solar. And that is another one of the areas of soft costs that is a significant portion of the overall cost of installing solar for homeowners in the US. So we'll get into that in another, we'll get into that in detail in another meetup. But for now, just know that you can help finance solar and other clean energy and electrification projects by moving your money or some of your money into an Atmos account. It takes about 1 to 2 minutes to apply. So some Zoom network best practices: keep yourself muted unless you're talking. You can ask questions in the chat box, raise your hand, unless, Steve, you prefer people to just jump in. This is all how you prefer.
Raising your hand would be helpful.
Okay, and then, yeah, sounds good. And then Dave, Hitesh, and I can moderate. And then also, because we don't have the in-person meet and greet, shake hands, exchange business cards, if we ever do that again, use the chat function, drop your LinkedIn in there, your email, say what you do, what you need, how you can help, and then let's further build community with each other. So if you've emailed me recently and you haven't gotten a response, or messaged me on Meetup, this is the reason, or he is the reason, that I've been a little bit crazy lately. Adi, my son, was born just under 2 weeks ago. And Adi is Sanskrit for the primordial, the first, and is often used with the first rays of the sun, and Ravi means the sun as well. So we continuing the solar naming tradition in our family. So beyond that, thank you all for those little kudos and thumbs ups and so forth. So with this recording, we'll put the video, if Steve is good with it afterwards, up onto our YouTube channel. Eventually we'll start the newsletter again. Been thinking on an essay to share. And then we also ask for jobs. If anyone is hiring, we can share that now. Yeah, post it in the chat. That's a lot easier and it's a little less disruptive. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Steve Pope, who is the outreach manager for the SolarAPP, which is part of the Solar Energy Industry Association and the National Renewable Energy Labs, NREL. So I'm going to stop sharing. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Ravi. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. I was really pleased when Ravi reached out to us and kind of gave me a high level understanding of what your meetup group does and what your interests are and how to basically help out. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk to some fellow solar advocates and let you know what your government is doing to help make solar a real possibility here in the States. So I'll talk a little bit real quick about the program. I don't need to talk too much about myself. I am from the industry. I was just before I came to SEIA, I was at Momentum Solar, and then prior to that, I was at Trinity Solar. So both are two of the largest privately held residential installers in America. And I know firsthand how painful the permitting process can be and how detrimental it can be to our industry. For example, I was in my own hometown. It took 9 months. This is going back almost 3-4 years ago, 9 months to go from contract to glass on roof. 9 months in my hometown. And we're a very forward thinking, solar ready type town. Go just a couple miles away in Staten Island, it can take 3 weeks. So you can imagine from an industry perspective, where are they going to spend the time, right? Where are they going to spend the resources to go out and to do their sales and marketing efforts? They're going to go to the place that has the shorter amount of time to go from contract to actually bringing in money versus waiting 9 months or in some cases longer. And a lot of that is really kind of baked into the soft costs that are inherent with solar. And again, this was a big one that the Department of Energy decided that they wanted to look into. And this goes back almost about 10 years that they had started looking into this and developing the resources and the personnel to really put together a solution that ended up getting funded and now is it's ready for prime time, where we launched in July 15th. We have currently 7, 8 what are called AHJs, authorities having jurisdiction. That's what I'll be using. And we use that term because it's not just a town. It can sometimes be a county. It can sometimes be a building department. Sometimes it's a permitting department. It varies as to who owns the right to develop or the right to do these permits. So we use that kind of nomenclature, the AHJs. So again, they've created this program to really help both the AHJ themselves to speed up that permitting time and to make sure that it's easy, it's automated, it's immediate, and it takes that workload off of the person that was normally doing that. That review of the permit is typically about 70 to 80% of the permits that are done for solar are almost identical. From a nuts and bolts perspective, most of them are, and it's basically taking the heavy lifting off of them to be able to do those compliance checks programmatically versus having a person doing that kind of manual labor. And it frees them up to do more higher level, intricate, detailed, complex permits that they sometimes can't get to because of these backlogs of solar permits. So that's really the main impetus behind why SolarAPP Plus exists, is to make it easy for both local governments as well as the installers, to make it very much seamless, very much the same. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. Just give me, do you know, Rob, if I've got access to do that?
Yes, you should be able
Yeah,
to
you
now.
should.
Hit.
All right.
On the bottom of your screen, do you see a little green share screen button?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm just seeing if I can get
Yeah.
onto it.
Hey, looks
Yeah.
like it worked. Awesome.
All right, so you guys can see the whole screen, not just you can see everything.
We can see
right?
everything, Steve.
That's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine.
We see like tabs and that's okay.
I
Yep.
will always have tabs open. It's a bad habit, but I'm not going to break it right now for you guys.
You have 4 tabs open. I don't know how if you saw all the tabs I
Yeah.
have open on one window. That was just one of my windows, and it was a light window.
So let me kind of skip ahead to to where kind of the main problems with soft costs are. Comparatively speaking, the US lags a lot of our immediate competitors. And I consider Germany, UK, Australia to be, we're friendly competitors, but the reality is that these countries have put in place programs to help drive down those costs. And again, when we're spending, 360 a watt versus Germany spending $1.50 a watt, the reality is that it's always going to be a lot cheaper for them to do some of this work. And again, one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is giving America a competitive advantage. And I think that that's really where I look at this as being so important. I'm a capitalist, admittedly, and I want us to do well. I'm a climate change capitalist. I believe that we are going to be able to make money and we're going to be able to save the environment at the same time. It's not an if or, it's not a either, it's an and. And I think, again, one of the nice parts about this program is that it really kind of addresses those issues head on by helping to lower those kind of costs. So now, just to be clear, SolarAPP does not work in every situation. I said 70 to 80%. These are kind of the parameters that we're looking for. Let me see if I can actually get it to a presentation mode better. Yeah. Oh, well, forget it. All right. Any rate, so you can see that we do need the AHJ to be on the right codes. So they have to be on the National Electric Codes 2017 and the Building Code 2018. If they're not going to be compliant with the software as it sits today. We are working towards the NEC 2020, which will be probably end of year, I would imagine. And we are also in the process of adding storage to SolarAPP. So that's the plus symbol, is storage and beyond. Where are we taking it for the future? So I kind of went through all this, and I'm going to just go through some of this, the estimation exercises. I want to just, while we're on this slide, and you guys can look at some of the money that's being saved here, I want to talk real quick about a success story that I think is critical. So right when we launched in July 15th, maybe a couple days afterwards, one of the largest solar companies, Freedom Forever, had asked the city of Tucson if they could resubmit about 90 applications that they had, that had already submitted, and was normally going to take them about 6 weeks to go through that whole process. Tucson said, absolutely, go ahead and resubmit them. They resubmitted all of those. Immediately, each one of those had gotten permitted, right? They have their permit in hand, and they started the next day to do virtual inspections. They were doing 8 inspections a day. That's what I'm talking about when we're talking about waiting 6 weeks, just even get started 6 weeks versus immediately starting to do the inspections on these jobs and starting to have money coming through the door. It's a huge difference maker. It's just, there's no, I feel like I'm trying to be as excited to show you my excitement and to show you how much money this is. It's a groundbreaking thing. And it really is something that I think I can't crow enough about.
Steve, can you hit the present button so that the slides go full screen?
Oh yeah. Thank you. I was hiding behind this little thing. Thank you for
You're
saying
welcome.
that, because I don't think I would have moved.
Now we can
this
see the
otherwise.
charts and the text a little
All
better.
right. Well, I don't need to see myself, I don't think. All right, let me move this over. All right. So this is the flow. It's a very simple flow. You know, the installer submits the application, it goes through, it gets checked for compliance, and then out pops this code compliant application that has this QR code that once they've actually paid the $25 fee for SolarAPP. And by the way, I just want to point out $25 for a permit, you know, for getting an immediate permit is absolutely, every single installer I've ever heard was like, you could have charged us 7 times that, we would have still done it. It's a very nominal fee to be able to get certainty as to when we can start the installation, when you can tell your customer, stay home this day, we're going to get it done that day. You know, you don't, it's important because, again, the people that are trying to ultimately going to be benefiting from this are the homeowners that are going to be able to say, I know when I can stay home, I know when I can get this project done, and have that kind of certainty. That QR code is also really helpful for the inspector as they're in the field. If there were any changes that had to be done on the fly behind the scenes for the installer, you know, if they had to make a correction or a add-on or something like that, they can do that through the system, and that QR code keeps all of that information up to speed. So when the inspector's looking at it, they hit that QR code and it shows them exactly what's going on. So it's again a critical component to being able to, you know, keep these things flowing the right way. And I'm just gonna now there are 2 different ways that you can go about doing this. One is through what's called a standalone, which is if a jurisdiction doesn't have an automated system in place currently. We just basically go through the same process. They have set up a Stripe account, which is going to accept the permitting fee on behalf of the jurisdiction. It stores those documents, and then again, it's issuing that permit instantly. Now, if they did have an existing permitting software, it's fine. We work with most of the major ones that are out there: OpenGov, eTrackIt, Tyler Tech. They're simply, you know, we're connecting to those. We're uploading to those jurisdiction software systems. The jurisdiction would be the one that's collecting that fee through that system that they've already put in place. And then again, still getting that permit instantly. All of the documents going to the right people, all of the information in the right place. Any kind of questions on this so far? Okay. All right, so I'm going to keep cruising here. Once we get this adopted, or once an AHJ decides that they want to move forward after we've kind of shown them how the system works, you know, they select the right integration setting. They put in place the right local settings. By the way, I do want to clarify, SolarAPP has a little bit of flexibility to it in that there are going to be differences between Arizona and New Hampshire. There's going to be differences between Florida and Oregon, and you can manipulate the system just enough to make it to make it work in those different places. Again, based on usually wind and snow loads and stuff. We then set up that instant workflow process, and on we go to launch. You know, this is basically during the launch process, we're going to invite only a small number of installers to help with the piloting process. We want to make sure that everything goes smoothly, that there are any kinks that that could have come up, or any wrinkles are ironed out ahead of the full-on launch. But usually, I would say the piloting process can take anywhere from a couple of weeks to about a month, give or take. It depends on the AHJ. It depends on what their workload is at that time. And I'm also kind of going off of the summer months. So I will say a lot of what we've been dealing with has been vacations and people gone that need to be around because they're the IT person that know it. And they're the only ones who know where all the keys are. Some of that I think we're going to, we'll work through as the fall and winter and spring months come along. But that's really how this program works.
Real quick, Steve, a couple of questions that come in.
Absolutely.
So I think back on that last slide, does SolarAPP verify that the deployed system aligns with the permitted design?
Does it?
So is there a verification that the installed system, essentially matches what it says on the permit?
No, it's still done exactly the same as it is today with an inspection. The inspector is the one who looks at the plan and looks at what's on the house and says, this is good, or this is not, this is accurate.
Mhm.
It's not going to tell you just because the plan is saying one thing and one thing doesn't mean that the installer actually did it the right way.
Right.
Right. The inspector is still the ultimate authority on all this. Still. That doesn't change.
Yeah, I guess it would be, is there an inspector view within SolarAPP to see what was permitted, or does that just sort of permit gets pulled out and they look at that and look at what the plan is and what's actually installed?
The inspector does get their own checklist that they're going off of. And again, that QR code will keep them up to date. So let's say they're looking at an inspection checklist that they got maybe 2 days before, but let's say just for example, and the inspector comes shows up there and he's looking at it and there's something in here that's wrong. Well, he, instead of just automatically dismissing it, he can QR code it and make sure that, oh, you know what? Oh, I see that they updated this, right? The piping isn't going to be here. It's actually going to be over here. And that's where it was. Okay, fine. And they can see that it was accurate and it's still up to date, right?
Cool.
Now, if they didn't do that and if it's still, if it's wrong, then they can still fail it.
Great. So I think that was the question. And then the second one is, can we share out your slides with folks?
I believe we should be able to do that. I mean, when you're recording all this anyways, correct?
Yeah. This person
All right.
specifically doesn't want to sit through the recording to see all the slides again. They just like the slides.
Well, have them contact me directly then.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec I'm going to stop sharing for a second to move to a different.
And then is SolarAPP compatible across all the states?
It's compatible to the states that have that have adopted the right codes. So again, it's not for everybody. I want to be clear on that. It's not a panacea. It is for the people that and the AHJs that have the right code structure in place for 2017 NEC and 2018 IBC.
Yeah. And then what was the development process like? How did you engage with target users and how has the uptake feedback been so far?
So let me try to answer a couple of those one at a time. So the uptake has been, I think, cautiously optimistic, and I think in some degrees cautious. AHJs, I think, by their nature, are concerned about making sure that they get things correct, and that's a good thing. Believe me. I mean, we want them to be cautious. We want them to take their time and to do their due diligence. And the nice part about this group is that they're completely transparent. They work very, very well collaboratively, and they do a very good job of getting to the answers to the questions that are posed to them. And if they don't have an answer, they work very diligently to get you one. What was that first part of the question, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So, or Laura, do you want to ask it directly?
Yeah, sure. I was just curious about how the development process went in putting this together. It sounds like you understand pretty well the pain points, and I was assuming that you must have engaged quite a bit with the folks who are going to use this in the beginning. So I was just curious how that went, if there were any difficult moments.
So let me back up and say I've been at SEIA for about 3 months now. So I did not get to be part of the initial, roll up your sleeves and trying to figure this stuff out. But I will say that the people that did a lot of due diligence in understanding the pain points of both the AHJs and the installer base. SEIA is the lobbying. SEIA is the Solar Energy Industry Association. So we're the Solar Energy Industries Lobbying Association. So we know very much how painful this is to our constituents. And so that was one of the reasons why SEIA is involved, is to be an advocate for them. But a lot of the people that are in SEIA are previously from building code people, and they know exactly what kind of pains they're going through as well. In terms of like the development of the tool itself, I have been able to sit in on some of the engineering calls, which at first I was kind of like, what am I doing on these? What's the point? I'm not a technologist. I'm not a programmer. I like tech. I'm a big fan. I've done a couple of tech startups, but I'm not in the weeds. And it dawned on me the other day that the reason I'm there is to say these stories. These guys go into the most minute details to try to get the wording right, and to make sure that the tool itself is responsive, is done the right way, is done with care and a little bit of I will say, I'll leave it at care. They take a lot of care in what they do. They're meticulous. And I think that's, if you're going to be using the tool from an installer perspective, these are the guys that you want building a tool like this, because they really do a nice job of it. And Ravi, there was one other part to that question.
I don't want to slow you down too much.
Okay, well, why don't I go into a little bit about how the tool is built? I think from everybody be interested in kind of like what it's built on and the languages and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely a good amount of people that would.
One clarification question.
Sure.
Your last stage was to pilot it with a few installers. Did you mean solar companies that do solar rooftops, or did you mean individual people?
No. This is only for certified and licensed installers. You have to show a license in order to use this tool. You cannot do this if you're a homeowner. If you're a homeowner that wants to do this, wants to put solar on your roof, fine. But you now fall into that other category of having to use the regular permitting process.
But it's an AHJ that would make the installer aware of the existence of this program.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
And in fact, Pima County yesterday did a fantastic presentation to the installer community, letting them know, come use SolarAPP Plus. Here's what you're going to expect. Here's how it's going to work. They were super excited. And by the way, I thought that their presentation was phenomenal, because it really went into a lot of the details and what an installer is going to kind of wonder about how to use this new tool. Some of these installers are not, huge nationwide companies. They may be very, regional, and for them, SolarAPP is going to be something new. and they did, I think, a very good job of lowering that temperature and lowering the maybe the I don't want to say nerves, but the apprehension of using a tool like this.
Steve, is there for the AHJ adopting this, are there fees associated for the AHJ, or is there other sort of thresholds that AHJs need to get over?
That's a great question. So the answer is no. The tool itself is no cost to the AHJ at all. The only costs that are involved are through the $25 application fee that the installer pays to SolarAPP, right? And by the way, the AHJ still collects their normal permitting fees. That doesn't change, right? They're just going to get more applications because this tool is going to make it easier for people to apply. It's going to make it easier for them to get these permits, and again, that's a good thing for the AHJ and certainly for the industry. I should also just point out, nothing in life is completely free. There is time invested, right? The AHJ has to invest time to look at the program, to do the demos, to get the right people on, to spend the time to actually onboard and to get things rolling. Now, that being said, once that's done, it's done, and they don't have to do it again. And generally, we're seeing huge cost savings in terms of the amount of time and money that are being saved for people that are, basically you're freeing up in some cases an entire person that was dedicated to just reviewing solar applications. If you free that person up to do more, difficult, challenging permitting, that's a great thing. I mean, you're saving a town a lot of money, and that's I think one of the things that I think is so impressive about this. All right, so I'm going to get into some languages that I don't speak, but I'm sure some of you do. And I'm going to work from the data layer up north, up towards the website. So the data layer is using Postgres, and it's pulling from the CEC, which is the California Electrical Code, I believe. It goes up to the services level, which is going to be using PHP, Apache, and Laravel. And then going all the way to the web-based client, it's going to be custom HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, and jQuery. And also LAMP stack. Oops, I forgot to put that in there. Sorry. Any questions on how that pulls together? Makes sense to everybody? Cool.
Anybody have any questions specifically about the tech stack? David, ClimateLink, that is.
Put me on blast, but no questions. Seems like a reasonable tech stack, especially appreciate the Postgres at the data layer. It's a good tech.
Yeah. One thing, David, that we'd love to do is find, so, if any soiree context, we're looking for some additional volunteer opportunities, is to find software engineers that can help accelerate the adoption of SolarAPP by the different AHJs. And I believe Igor's put in a form and some other things that resources into the chat. So if anybody on this in this call, meetup, Zoom, would like to, or know somebody who's looking for more opportunities to help accelerate the transition, this is a good volunteer opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for the plug there, Ravi. So
Always.
one thing in particular that I was asked to plug was any help developing the installer and the AHJ APIs would be a key need. And those individuals could get involved in kind of a hackathon around those particular topics. So if there is anybody that's interested in doing something like a hackathon to help in particular addressing the API for either the installer or the AHJ, please reach out to myself or to Ravi, and Ravi will get in touch with me. One thing that we did, we wanted to open up was kind of coding skill sets that are needed right now would be software Q&A resource, which would be a minimum of about 10 hours per week minimum. And then any software development support would need to have PHP skills and be available for a minimum of 20 hours a week. So I know that those are kind of big asks, but if there are people that have that kind of bandwidth, it'd be silly for me not to at least mention it. But I can always hope, So let me just kind of continue down here. Yeah, those are really kind of the main ones. Right now, we don't have any job opportunities, but really just that, in-kind contributions. That's our main one. And, if there are, anybody that's interested in hearing a little bit more about that, we can certainly do that. Let me share my screen one more time. This is for the product roadmap. Can everybody see this okay?
Yes.
All right, cool. So this is where the SolarAPP is today. And this is where it's coming up, short term, longer term, future, longer term. The reality is this tool set is really geared towards being being something within an AHJ that lives and grows with them. So as these technologies evolve and as we start seeing new stuff coming in, like solar, like energy storage or electric vehicle charging, that we're developing the right tool sets to allow those natural progressions to happen. Because again, we think in most cases, an energy storage system is going to be done by the same installer that's doing the solar. More than likely, the same installer that's doing solar may be doing electric vehicle charging in the very near future as well, as just a natural progression for these contractors to be able to capture just a little bit more revenue and a little bit more of what people are going to be asking for in the near future. Any questions on any of this stuff? Anything pop out of here? It's crazy. I do get asked about whether or not this is going to be getting into addressing interconnection integration. That is something that's on the roadmap in the future area here. These are aspirational. We recognize interconnection is a big deal and a big problem. And it's something that they are working on, and they do recognize it to be something for the future to look into and to address.
Another question, Steve?
Sure.
Go for it, Laura.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm noisy. I'm very curious. So this might be like way out of left field, but whenever I see multifamily, I start to think about low-income communities and projects like that sometimes are all the more sensitive to ancillary costs. And so I wonder, is there any special consideration for these kinds of solutions in enabling more of those projects to get done and ensuring that there's kind of equity in the way that these AHJs facilitate more projects?
As a matter of fact, that's one of our big pushes at SolarAPP is addressing communities of need and disadvantaged communities. And to be frank, SolarAPP is one of those tool sets that that allows an AHJ that may be struggling to really free up capital. I mean, you're basically allowing a person that was doing a kind of a, I don't want to say it's a stamping job, but it is it's a job that could be done by a program. And we're freeing that person up to do something more impactful with their time at that local government. In doing so, we're also going to add more solar into that area, which is going to add more revenue into that particular AHJ, which will again cycle through into that community. So we do recognize the value of SolarAPP, in particular addressing communities of need. And in fact, I think we're one of the few industries, I can speak from my own experience that both at Trinity and Momentum, we did a concerted effort to go into those communities, because we know, look, in at least in New Jersey and New York, you could get a solar system and it's costing you nothing. It lowers your bills immediately. It increases the long-term value of that residency. I mean, it's a way of allowing people to get to be a part of this new this new industry and this new way of life for us. Dennis, you have your hand up. I'm actually getting better at seeing this now.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Do you have a sense of what the pie chart looks like for soft costs?
Yeah, I do, and I don't have. Let me see if I can actually stop sharing for a second and find you that. I do have a pie chart for it in one of my many different tabs. Let me see if I can find you one.
I was about to say the same thing. I think you and I were talking about this on our call, Steve, a few weeks ago.
And I probably should have had this queued up when I should have. Cost savings estimator.
Come on. Oh, there we go.
Igor's on here. I see you, Igor. If anybody would have quick access to the information I'm looking for.
Here, I'm going to drop a note into the chat.
No.
All right.
I can certainly look up, oh, wait, maybe that's it.
I dropped something into the chat, Steve.
I'm going to drop another link. It's
That's it. That's exactly it. That's Ravi. That's exactly it. And
yeah. So that's 2019 data. It's the most recent. It also doesn't include the upfront fees and financing. So it's not the total cost. And that's what we at Atmos are going after. So to make it more affordable for everyone. So a lot of financing includes pretty hefty, anywhere from 10 to 30+% upfront fees for residential financing. So need to get that down, as well as customer acquisition, supply chain, permitting, because all of those soft costs, we get them down. If you actually take a look at the LCOE of that electricity, then it makes the electrification of those homes, even in states where they've got really low gas prices, it now becomes economically advantageous to do full solarization plus electrification. So that's where we need to head to, and we can get there in the next few years with some good pushing, like with SolarAPP and Atmos Financial. Got to plug that one too.
There you go. Nice job. And
Thanks,
Igor, thanks for throwing some of that information in here as well. That's really great too. So Dennis, I hopefully that answers some of your questions about the actual soft costs involved with the solar.
Yeah, I didn't see the numbers, but I've kind of looked into it in the past, and I was kind of under the impression that, on-site labor and customer acquisition were kind of the two biggest chunks. And when you throw in installer profit and overhead, those 3 or 4 categories alone are probably, I don't know, 80% plus. And I would assume, I don't know for a fact, but I would assume that that permitting and inspection fees are, you know, a relatively small percentage of the overall pie.
Well, I would agree with you about the fees being small. The fees are not really where the costs are born. It's the time that is the issue, right? The time component is the bigger chunk of this. So if, as I said, if you're comparing two different towns, one that's able to get, you know, a contract and glass to roof in 3 weeks or even sooner. I mean, right now we're at a point where theoretically you could do a same day installation. You could have a homeowner sign the contract in the morning and theoretically they could get, you know, installed that day because of this instant permitting. That's a huge difference versus, you know, weeks or even months of waiting to get, you know, to get your answer that you can actually go ahead and install. You know, and the uncertainty for a homeowner builds with every passing week. It's almost, I think that there's it's like a 10% chance by every single week that passes that the homeowner starts getting remorse, and that buyer's remorse for the solar industry is terrible. You know, if they think, if the homeowner believes that they're not going to get installed and it's the, you know, it's the installer's fault, they haven't been able to tell me what's going on, and I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and I'm getting tired of it, you know, they back out of the deal. And now the installer has spent you know, time, they've spent money, and it's going to be very hard for them to recoup that, other than to try to go out and get another customer. And that's really where the cost is born.
Steve, is it possible for you or Igor to talk a little bit about what the integration process looks like for a jurisdiction, maybe how long it takes, what kind of customization or APIs are needed in order to really, you know, plug them in, and you know, is it really just say, yeah, as you deploy to each jurisdiction, are they really also unique that you just have to go one by one? It's just because I see that you guys are making a lot of progress, but it seems like, well, it may be a slower process than you would like.
I'm going to go ahead and say yes, that it is a little bit slower of a process than we would like. And I think it's due to the fact that the program has now opened up to a very large audience, right? Where in the beginning, it was kind of contained to Arizona and to California, and we had to work within those set parameters about what those individual states or even those localities may have as their own unique challenges. And each, from what I can see, I would say almost across the board, each AHJ seems to have their own unique flavor or your own unique challenges that you have to address. And I'm not sure that there's it's not as cookie cutter as solar permitting is. The AHJs are unique and individual. And we do have to just kind of be aware of that. And the nice part is, I think that this is a team that is comfortable working through those problems and capable of working through those, which is, you know, even rarer.
Yeah. Just add, you know, to drill down into, you asked about APIs, so it is case specific, but there are two ways to get SolarAPP to work, and it's jurisdiction specific. Some want to do a standalone. Others work with an existing governmental processing system like a SEIA or InterGov or eTrackit. So, and some are in the process of changing the system midstream, like my hometown of Berkeley. That is what is holding us up right now. So we have been working very hard, particularly on the NWEL development side, and with the help of the engineers developing the software to, you know, to when things come up, to see if there is a solution that could be easily scalable, not just for that particular jurisdiction, but for all jurisdictions, because that really is one of the benefits of SolarAPP. Takes a few months, I would say, for a very motivated jurisdiction to get it going from beginning to end, and a year or more for jurisdictions that have some internal things that they need to work out first. But either way, we're motivated to work with any and all jurisdictions that want this to happen.
Berkeley seems like it would be particularly challenging. I hear a lot of complaints about them, but so it sounds like then typically you will start with talking with the elected officials, the legislators for an AHJ, and then eventually move over to their permitting office and their engineering team over there to integrate. Would that be correct?
It depends. I think that that's it's accurate that we do try to attack it from all angles. In that the elected officials certainly have the political will in many cases to help their constituents, right? That they're going to be the ones who are going to suffer, if you will, if they don't do something to help spur solar development in their particular AHJ. So you know they're committed to doing something like that. Building officials may or may not be so inclined, depending on their level of pain. But I certainly hear more often than not a fairly high degree of pain. If an AHJ is doing volume, they're under it. They have somebody usually dedicated to just doing solar applications all day, every day. Again, and those are in the situations of an AHJ that does volume. If they don't, then maybe SolarAPP is not an immediate need for them. If you're a town that has a ton of trees, you just may not be a good solar candidate as a town or a city to begin with, or you're on the wrong code cycle. We can't work with certain with every AHJ because they may be just not a good fit for it. But I will say this, David, that as the team gets more accustomed to seeing certain things, we are speeding up that process. So a lot of times I'll hear in some of our discussions, oh, this is similar to this, this town or this city did it just like this, so it's going to be very similar. And so they they're learning from those past experiences and getting better. And I think that that's just only going to continue as this rolls along.
Yeah.
Steve.
Sorry.
Oh, go for it, Igor.
And sorry, I sort of, I should probably introduce myself. So with my work hat, I'm a senior policy advisor at the California Solar and Storage Association. So Steven and I work closely together on SolarAPP implementation. Just to a very specific case in point to bolster what Steve just said, is happening across the border for me in El Cerrito right now. El Cerrito is a very small city, and like a lot of jurisdictions, their staff is completely overwhelmed. They have a small staff, and they've actually outsourced any permitting at all for solar and or PV storage to an outside contractor. So the thinking is, if they get on SolarAPP, not only will it save them money concretely, but this was an interesting realization for us. El Cerrito is not the only city that has contracted out permitting. So we looked at who else uses that contractor, and we're now going to be working to approach those jurisdictions and achieve some economies of scale there.
If I can, I'm going to just answer Martin's question. So
Yeah, go for it. I was just going to do a time check and say that it was 6:07, so we can get to the demo, and then But yeah, go for Martin's question.
Yeah. So Martin, your question about the diagrams, I think is valid. There's a lot of, when I came on board, I was again kind of, well, why aren't you guys doing diagrams, or why aren't you doing, PE stamps, or, the like. And the reality kind of struck me that the way that they're programmatically doing this is every question is dealing with what you would normally see in one of those diagrams. They're taking it and making it so that a computer can understand what a human would see with their eyes. And I think that that's been such a revelation to me, is that it's still safe, it's still code compliant, it's just done differently. And I think when the installers that I've talked to that have recognized that see such a big value behind that, because again, it's freeing up their time and it's freeing up their resources to do other things. And that's a good thing for everybody involved. They're still, going to upload their their schematics and stuff like that, but they still need to have a compliant check, and that's what this thing can do programmatically. Ravi, do you want to continue?
Yes, let's do it. You get
Okay.
a little bit of demo and maybe a couple more questions. And
well, the demo is really what I had gone through already. That was the intro demo, and that's as high level as I wanted it.
Got it.
So again, this is here for for the questions, the Q&A, more than anything. That was really what I wanted to spend my time on.
Awesome. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were actually going to do like an app and run through anything. So great. So I have a question. So on the sort of product roadmap, and you talked about different hackathon type things, the prioritization of sort of the different feature sets or components of permitting. So I see in there like storage, EV charging. I mean, I know other climate tech startups that do those things. It's like their business model is about, EV charging. And so they would want to see that permitting go faster, or, other these things. So having a collection of the software startups that handle these projects, work on these types of things for integrating within SolarAPP, so it behooves them. That might be one way. And actually, Hitesh and David and I are talking with another group about doing some sort of hackathon or code instruction type bootcamp around some of these types of ideas. So we should talk more about that.
I think, Ravi, as we get closer to doing those types of those integrations, the idea is that this is not, hello and goodbye. I expect us to be good friends for a long time, and with your whole group as well. Like that's why we wanted to do this tonight, was to introduce ourselves as we're here and we're going to be raising our hands for help from people that are interested in contributing and being able to offer their time and their expertise when and where needed. Currently, right now, we're looking at QA, but that doesn't necessarily preclude that in the future that we wouldn't want to have some of these people that are experts in those particular areas. We do. So yeah, stay in touch.
Awesome. Any other questions?
I have one, and maybe you've kind of covered this already, but so apologies if you have. Who sort of formally owns SolarAPP? Like who's the owning body, if you will?
Sure. So it's actually they have a SolarAPP Foundation, and the foundation has board members that are from Rocky Mountain Institute, Rocky Mountain Institute, from NREL, from UL, from SEIA, all the kind of the players that have been there from the beginning. UL, Underwriter Laboratories is going to be the ultimate authority that takes over the SolarAPP Plus program in the future. It probably about a year from now, they're going to be the long-term manager of the product, and they'll be the ones who kind of continue this going forward. But we do see that there's a real need for that collaborative spirit to continue. And UL has certainly been very, very open about, working together and finding, the right people and stuff like that.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. You have any other?
Awesome. Going once, going twice. Bueller.
Love it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much. We will